It's week 2 of the Premier League, which means Chelsea take on East London rivals West Ham at the London Stadium. But who will start and how will we play? Let's get right into it. Welcome to the lead-in. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from Mono CFC, and let's not delay any further. Chelsea will be looking to bounce back from our rather disappointing draw with Liverpool last Sunday, and the team that stands in front of us will be another tough test in West Ham United. As always, I'm going to be going through the lineups that I believe will play and highlight some tactical things of note. So, without further ado, let's firstly look at our opponents for this match. West Ham came 14th in the league last year, earning themselves the unfortunate title of worst London club in the league, somehow being even worse than Chelsea. Despite this, they managed to win the new Europa Conference League, besting Fiorentina to lift the trophy. Last season, we actually had some success over the Hammers, being one of the only teams we actually beat, before drawing to them in February, in a game where Chelsea were quite frankly robbed with a ridiculous no penalty call. Thomas Souček decided to play goalkeeper, and apparently the referees forgot that outfield players aren't allowed to use their hands. The Hammers have been conducting some up and down transfer business, selling their best player to Arsenal in Declan Rice and replacing him with Mexican Edson Alvarez, as well as bringing in the ever excellent James Ward-Prowse from relegated Southampton. West Ham, like Liverpool before them, have lost a lot of players, having one of the smaller teams in the league. I'll quickly rattle them off here: Rice, Masuaku, Lanzini, Scamacca and Vlasic. With even more European fixtures this time out, they may struggle again in the league if they choose to prioritise the cup again. Luckily for them, that's a problem for the future and not right now. We only have one competitive game to study so far, that being their game against Bournemouth, which ended in a 1-1 draw. They actually had a rather good game despite being dominated in the possession stats, creating a lot of chances and using the ball well when they had it. Against a possession-based side like Chelsea, they will likely try to replicate this same type of performance, but will be looking to do one better this time out. So, how will they plan on trying to achieve that? Let's look at the team. West Ham, managed by David Moyes, usually play in a pretty standard 4-2-3-1, but I believe that they could change this up for this game slightly because of some personnel changes which I'll get onto in a second, and thus I'll be putting them in a 4-3-3 for this one. First up in goal is Frenchman Alphonse Areola, their number 1 who made a couple of decent saves last weekend. For the back 4, it's going to be the exact same back 4 that played last time out, the right back spot being filled by Czechia native Vladimir Koufal. The 2 centre-backs will be filled by disgraced ex-Chelsea defender turned cat hater Kurt Zouma on the right, with Moroccan Naya Fagerd playing beside him on the left. The left-back spot will also be filled with the next Chelsea man, Brazilian-born Italian Emerson Palmieri. Moving into the midfield, this is where the changes start to happen. Usually West Ham would play a Cam and 2 more defensive-minded players behind him, but I will be changing this formula in order to include their new signings. In the deepest role, I believe we will see the debut of the aforementioned Edson Alvarez, who will be keen to try and prove a point considering Chelsea snubbed his transfer to them last season. I will then be playing 2 more box-to-box style midfielders, with Thomas Souček returning to the side on the right, and new signing James Ward-Prowse taking his place on the left. There's one big exclusion here, and that's for Brazilian Lucas Paquetá, who I believe will be taken out of the starting 11 due to a couple of factors. One, his possible move to Manchester City, in which he's reportedly agreed personal terms, though that deal is on the verge of falling through because of point number 2, and more importantly, the betting/match fixing scandal that is surrounding him at the moment. There's been major allegations that he has been using outside sources in order to bet money on certain instances, the main one in question being a yellow card that he earned himself in the Aston Villa game in March. Because of this ongoing scandal/investigation, I feel as if he will be taken out of the limelight, dropped to the bench, or perhaps even out of the matchday squad entirely. Finally, the 3 up top. I'm going to be putting in all 3 players that started last time out, as I believe it is their strongest attacking trio currently. On the right is the very dangerous Jarrod Bowen. On the left is the tricky Algerian Saïd Benrahma, and down the middle is the ludicrously explosive Michail Antonio. In terms of how West Ham play, it's slightly tricky to say for sure. With the new additions they might function slightly differently to usual, but I believe they'll employ a similar plan to what they did against Bournemouth, try and get an early goal and then sit back and absorb pressure. They'll then try to break quickly with the ever-willing runners of Bowen, Benrahma and Antonio, the latter of which is excellent at holding up the ball in order to help his team progress up the pitch. Usually West Ham leave him up top as the only player not defending, as he's perfectly capable of leading the line all by himself. Both of their wingers are very dangerous and pose threats from wide areas by either cutting inside and allowing the fullbacks to overlap, or with crosses into the box, which are a particularly dangerous weapon for the Hammers due to the sheer size of the majority of their players. Not only that, but both wingers are capable of producing magic from shots outside the box, as we saw Jared Bowen do in that previous game, scoring with a screamer past Neto. It doesn't really need to be said, but West Ham are going to be a nightmare from set pieces, adding to their already dangerous arsenal by bringing in dead ball specialist James Ward-Prowse. Winning corners and free kicks is a massive way that West Ham can find success, so we'll have to be mindful about giving away any silly fouls. West Ham are no stranger to committing bodies forward though. When they do attack, they attack in numbers, with their midfielders joining the forwards and making darting runs into the box. They love to fill the area with bodies, making them very dangerous once again from the wide areas, but this could leave them exposed on the counter, as we saw them fall victim to a few times against Bournemouth on the transition. They will have to be wary of this threat on the counter, and they'll be hoping they can do a similarly good defensive performance against us. Now from the east to the west, let's talk about Chelsea. Real quick, if you're enjoying the content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. Starting with the formation, I think we will revert back to the 4-3-3. The 3 at the back system didn't really work out as well as Poch would have liked in my opinion, and the last minute change clearly threw a spanner in the works against Liverpool. For this particular game, I think we will need to go back to this system in order to accommodate the personnel that I have chosen for this lineup. So first in goal, I'm going to be putting in our new official number 1, Robert Sanchez. There's not much to say about this one, he's the best keeper we have at the club, and his height will surely be a benefit to us considering how good West Ham are at set plays. Coming out to claim high balls is something we as a fan base have been looking for so long, and I'm glad we finally have someone who is able to do that. For the back 4, this will be a slightly changed defensive lineup. At right back, replacing the injured Reece James is going to be, for his first competitive start for Chelsea, Malo Gusto. The perfect replacement for James, Gusto is an easy like-for-like swap, and we'll be looking to add Saeed Benrahma to the Malo Gusto penitentiary. For the centre-back pairing, I'm going to be starting Axel Disasi ahead of Thiago Silva. I think Disasi did very well in the previous game, obviously netting a goal, but also being defensively solid as well. I put him in here over Silva because for this game we absolutely need height in the centre, and I'd rather have a taller centre-back who's statistically better aerially too. I also believe the sheer goal threat of his is enough to put him in, as this is likely to be a very cagey game in which we struggle to create clear-cut opportunities and may have to rely on a scrappy set piece in order to win. For the left centre-back spot, this is pretty obvious. It's going to be Levi Colwill once again. Despite him being left isolated for large parts of the Liverpool game, I feel as if Levi did pretty well, and he's quickly cementing himself as the starting left centre-back for every single week. Over on the left hand side, it's going to be our captain for this game, Ben Chilwell. I seriously don't get the hate that Chilly gets in all honesty, and he was class once again against Liverpool. Getting the assist for Disasi's goal and having one of his own chalked off for a narrow offside, I think he's one of our biggest threats out there on the left hand side, and with defensive reinforcements coming into the side, I think he can comfortably get up the pitch and not have to worry as much about his defensive duties. As for the midfield, as much as I want to see the LFC midfield trio, I don't expect it to happen in this one. Despite Poch saying that if they are ready they will play, I think that Lavia is not going to be up to speed quite yet, so I don't expect him to start, though he may come off the bench if we need some security late on in the game. So instead, on the right hand side, I'm going to be putting in the inevitable, new record breaking, miraculously new number 25, blessed by Gianfranco Zola himself, Moises Caicedo. This has felt like a lifetime coming, and it brings me such relief to finally be able to say that Moises Caicedo starts for Chelsea Football Club. He is going to bring so much more stability to our midfield, and I am so excited to see him out there on that pitch, doing what he does best. Next to him is going to be Conor Gallagher. I think that Conor played really well in the last game once he grew into it, and I see no reason for him to be dropped for this one. Unfortunately, this does mean that Chukwuemeka doesn't get a start, but I'm sure he'll get plenty of minutes off of the bench. And finally, on the left is going to be our player of the match last time out, Enzo Fernandez. This man starts for us every day of the week, and I don't really have to justify his inclusion. With Caicedo behind him, he is now free to go forward and dictate play, and also get into the box like we saw in patches against Liverpool. Finally, the 3 forward players. Though I'd love to see Noni Madueke start on the right, I don't expect him to get ahead of Raheem Sterling just yet, but he will hopefully be able to impress off of the bench and force his way into the team. Sterling was much improved in the last game, and let's hope he continues that form alongside Malo Gusto on the right. On the left, I'm going to be putting in Mykhailo Mudryk, who absolutely needs to start this game in my opinion. He was reportedly the man sacrificed to put Disasi in when we swapped formations before the game last time out, so I think his patience will be rewarded with the start now. I think his pace on the counter-attack is going to be vital against this West Ham team, who like to commit men forward and are vulnerable on the break. Finally, Nico Jackson takes the final place in the team, leading the line from the striker position once again. I think we need to see Jackson get on the score sheet this time out, as he needs to start gaining confidence and proving to Poch that he's ready to be the striker for Chelsea moving forward. As for how we will play, I think we are going to have a rather straightforward game plan, similarly to how we played against Liverpool, but before I talk about that, it's time for the question of the day. Now the season has started, I have returned to doing comments of the day, so here are a few responses to last video's question of the day. Thanks guys for the continued support as always. If you want your comment to be featured in the next video, leave your answer to this video's question of the day down below with QOTD at the start. So for this week's question of the day, we'll go for a simple one. Who do you think will be the goal scorers in this match? Alright, so how will we play? Well, if you want some insight into Poch's 4-3-3, I have also spoken about this system in this video right here, but let's pick out just a few of the tactical nuances that we may see come into play in this game. Poch's 4-3-3 isn't a formation that we see often, as he favours the 4-2-3-1, but the systems function fairly similarly off paper. We will commit bodies forward, with our fullbacks, mainly Ben Chilwell on the left, being given the license to get up the pitch into attacking areas. I believe we will focus on these wide channels in this one, as West Ham have a very decent core in the midfield that'll be difficult to play through. The formation will likely swap to a 3-3-4 in possession, Malo Gusto being tasked to be the more defensive of the two fullbacks the majority of the time. It will then be up to our wingers / fullbacks doubling up on their opposite number and trying to play 1-2s towards the byline. The one change I would make from the Liverpool game though is that I don't think we should try to put crosses into the box in the air from these areas. If we are going to be whipping balls in, they need to be low, as West Ham are far superior to us aerially. We will need to either circumvent that with low balls, as I said, or by cutting the ball back to oncoming midfielder, which would likely be one of the wingers or Enzo. Like I said for the Liverpool game though, I think we could find some success by letting the Hammers have the ball for spells of the game. We have a lot of pace on the counter, and West Ham didn't look particularly comfortable defending counter-attacks in the last game against Bournemouth, so opting to sit back and break on them once we win the ball back could be an avenue to success. With Caicedo now in the team though, I think what will most likely happen is that we will constantly be trying to win the ball back in midfield areas and hit them from there, not as a full counter-attack but more so on the transition. I think Caicedo is going to be massively important to how we play as a team, and now that Gallagher isn't trying to play in his position, I think we'll have a lot more success than we did against Liverpool. I think this game is going to be slightly cagey to start, with both teams not wanting to concede early. I expect West Ham to play extremely defensive, especially if they manage to nick a goal early. I predict that for the first half we will have large spells of possession, and we'll have to find some magic from somewhere in order to break down a rather pragmatic Irons defence. As ever, I will be live tweeting my reactions to the match over on Twitter, so if you do not follow me over there, make sure you do so you do not miss that. And as a reminder, after the game on Sunday I will be doing live GBU. About 30 minutes after the game finishes, I will be streaming on this channel, but if you can't make it to the stream, do not worry, all of the streams will be uploaded as VODs on this channel. For a score prediction, I think we'll comfortably win this game, but I'm not expecting a high scoreline. I'm going to go for 2-1 Chelsea. I hope the game doesn't turn out to be one of those grinding, looking for a goal type games, and that both teams will actually put in an effort to win it. Another draw here would not be good enough in my opinion, and we really need to see Poch start getting some wins so we can climb up the table. I'm going to say that our goals will come from Jackson first, and secondly, an interesting shout of Enzo getting on the score sheet. For our opposition, I think Antonio is the most likely to score personally, but I wouldn't be surprised if Souček bags at a corner or something like that either. But that was just my lead-in match preview for Chelsea vs West Ham. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these possible lineups in the comments section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from Mono CFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on you Blues.